Hello, welcome to this video. It's an absolutely glorious day here at Jellyman's Mill. The winter is over, we're heavily into spring. There's not a cloud in the sky and it's not even cold, it's actually quite warm here. On this video, which is completely impromptu, I want to do a video where I look at the 10 best albums that explore the English pastoral aesthetic, especially that aesthetic that goes deeper, because there's two pastoral aesthetics in the UK that I can think of. The first being that of rolling hills, you know, the sort of patchwork landscape that embodies the sort of countryside and also the sort of development of the land here in the UK. But as I leave Jellyman's Mill and I leave the buildings behind me, which are like 100 years old, and I go up to the old derelict mill here, which we'll be at in a minute, which is like 200 years old. And then behind that is a forest, and there's two forests here, and often I will go for a walk in the other forest that has a nice secure footpath, but this one doesn't, the one we're going to go through now. And this one runs alongside the River Stour behind me there. Can you see that? And then over here we have the derelict rope building Jellyman's Mill. That's the actual Jellyman's Mill. And now I'm going to, if you could see where we're going here, there's that old brick wall there. We're going around that path, and that path disintegrates, so I'm going to go deep into that forest. I've never been there before. I've been a little bit into it every now and then. And we're going to go through the 10 albums that for me really represent this aesthetic. Now, I really was so inspired to get outside of my studio that I haven't even got a list. And so I might not even be able to keep count. So this really is completely off the top of my head. So let's start with Songs from the Wood, because this video will also have the title Songs from the Wood, because it's such an apt title, really. Oh God, it is wise. I mean, we really are going down into the depths, and I feel that there's a sort of esoteric subconscious to the English aesthetic, which is embodied with our forests. And once we go into there, we're in the realm of sprites, or maybe the green man is watching me. You know, this is the deeper, more magical end of the aesthetic, and we really are going, it's hardly a path here. I really am deep inside this lovely forest, which is running alongside the river down there. So Songs from the Wood is my number 1 album on this. This is not ranked, by Jethro Tull. This combines a sort of high-powered, almost heavy metal approach to progressive rock music, with Baron Barlow's incredible drumming underpinning something most incredibly complex music that's ever come out of the rock and roll milieu. But also, it celebrates this aesthetic here. Oh, we've come to a little space here that's open. It represents this aesthetic here, doesn't it? The Wood, Songs from the Wood. This is part of a trilogy of albums. The next one will be Heavy Horses, which looks at that sort of much more industrialised landscape. And then the last one is Stormwatch, which explores our coasts, us being an island here. Songs from the Wood is the one that gets deep down into the magic. And so that would be in the first album on my list. I'm not going to say too much about each one, because I don't want to be walking for an hour and a half in here. God knows where I'll end up. Wow, this is really quite dense. It's all stinging nettles. I'm going to get stung for my art. I don't know how far I can go, actually. I think I'm running out of a way through this one. So number 2, how about Led Zeppelin III? I'm going to make it over to this little coastline. Led Zeppelin III. So Led Zeppelin, again, the great bombastic rock band that took Hendrix and Cream and the Jeff Beck group and consolidated it with a whole bunch of extra things, which really are magical. Right, I'm going to sit you down there. Aye. We're going to we're going to stay here for a bit. I'll tell you what I'm going to do actually. I will put you there, like that. That's too far away. I'll put you here like this. And we'll go through the 10 albums, and I'll sit down like that with that against my back. Not the most comfortable. So, number 2, Led Zeppelin III. So once they've made their mark by taking American blues and heavying it up into this bombastic sort of white blues style on the first 2 albums, they then depart into the Welsh countryside to gather their thoughts. Jimmy Page and Robert Plant famously decamping into Robert's holiday home known as Bronny Ire, and they wrote a whole bunch of these really delicate acoustic group songs influenced by people like Fairport Convention and probably most by Bert Jansch, incredible string band. Now this element had been there right from the beginning with Led Zeppelin. When you think of the Joan Baez track on the first album or Ramble On the second album, but it can become so apparent that I think it shocked the audience. But for me, this is where Led Zeppelin, who had assimilated the blues, the American form of music that had taken hold in the UK, and then through doing this and going deep into the forest of or the Welsh aesthetic, which is an even deeper and darker one than the British one, the English one, they sort of assimilate this, and they are able to come out and create their first adaptation of the blues, which is entirely original, which is there Since I've Been Loving You. So that would be my number 2 album, would be Led Zepp 3. That would be on my list. What else would I put on there now if I was making this up? So next one I'm going to go for is Liege and Lief by Fairport Convention, which features the incredible Sandy Denny on vocals, who then crops up on Led Zepp 4 on the Battle of Evermore. Fairport Convention are probably the preeminent folk rock group. Now, am I a huge knowledge of folk rock? Not really. When I was very, very young, the first album I ever made was with the keyboardist of the Albion band called John Shepherd, and he collaborated with an incredible folk singer called Polly Bolton, who was singing for Bert Jansch before then. And we did an album of Houseman's poetry called A Shropshire Lad, I think it was called. Was it called that, or was it called something else? We had the narrator on it, which was the great British actor Nigel Hawthorne, known for The Madness of King George and Yes Minister. That was the first album I ever played on it. It had a host of incredible folk musicians on it, and I hated it at the time because I just did not get it. And then later on, when I got the gig with Robert Plant, we would do lots of folk festivals, and I would come across people like Dave Mattox, who had played with John Martyn, who'd played with Fairport Convention. And then a few years ago, I managed to do a session, and on that session was the bass player, the famous bass player from the Fairport Convention band. It's all right, I had one of those blank moments and then I managed to pull it back at the last moment. So that's Dave Pegg, lovely man. When you saw him play the bass, you saw how he'd created a style that was unique. And this is British folk rock. Fairport Convention are at their peak. I own that Liege and Lief. It's one of those albums you have to have. I absolutely love it, and I think that is in there. I would also have to put some of Bert Jansch's recordings on. I have a box set. I wouldn't know what album to put on. But let's have a look at the Pentangle stuff. So Pentangle are a more sort of esoteric British folk rock band, quite close in certain places to prog and jazz fusion. And I don't know the albums well enough. I'm going to put a single record in here, which would be their Night Flight, which is in 5/4, and is just so incredible. And I think most jazz fusion prog fans, that's a really good place to start, is with Pentangle. So now we've done 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm up to number 5. What else would we be putting on there? So the aforementioned John Martyn. Now my favourite album by John Martyn is One World, which comes across as some sort of like jazz fusion, psychedelic, drugged up, space music. But what underpins that again is folk rock. Now, I suppose I should go for Solid Air, which is an incredible album. But my favourite album of the folk rock period is Bless the Weather. So that's the album I'm going to have at number 5, is Bless the Weather. John Martyn, I don't think has really. He's not respect. I don't know why he's not held in the same sort of level of respect as other British folk artists. You know, British folk music is always seen as being very worthy, I think. But I think because John Martyn he was more of a muso, and he was more willing to step outside, which is why I love him so much. He's always got a groove. His guitar play is incredible. And if you're into sort of psychedelic rock, go and check out One World. But once you get into that, go and check out Bless the Weather, which has a mixture of incredible sort of folk music on there, but also it's got like this sort of these like Glistening in Glyndebourne is just this beautiful jazz end of British folk music. So that was my number 5, wasn't it? It was Bless the Weather. What are we going to have at number 6? Well, I think it has to be a Nick Drake album. I'm going to make a move now. Let's stand up. Do you want to see the river? And we'll have a chat about Nick Drake. So Nick Drake made 3 incredible albums. Brighter Later was one. Was it 5 Leaves Left was the other one? And then there's the one with Pink Moon. And all 3 are as good as each other. All the albums are equal. I think, which one's got Riverman on? I think that's, because I got all the albums at the same time and listened to them. I had them as downloads, and I can't differentiate now. I do apologise, and I'm sure Nick Drake fans are getting very upset about all this. But I think looking at this, it has to be the one with Riverman on, doesn't it? So you can put in the comments which one that is. I think it's 5 Leaves Left or whatever. I can't even remember the title of that one. This here is a very impromptu video. I'm really just wanting to get out into this, right, and see what happens. So let's just point up to there and put that like that. So that was 6. What we're going to have at number 7. And I'll tell you what I'll do is I will find out the names of these albums, and so if you want to check them out, they'll be in the description of here based upon what I've come up with, because this really is deep foresty stuff going on. Oh, I found a way through. I wonder where this is going to come out. The path re-emerges and there's an open spot. Let's go and head this way then. Let's go and head this way. Let's have a think. Up until now, those have just flown out, haven't they? And I think I've done about as much as I can with English folk music. I don't think I need to go there. I think I need to update that a little bit. Look at elsewhere into that realm. I think another album that would be brilliant to put on would be a Gryphon album. I haven't spoken about Gryphon. Gryphon to me are like the most prog band of all. They're like a sort of medieval rock band. They have all the old medieval sounds. This tree stinks, by the way. It's got such a smell of decay about it. I'm right deep down in here. There's no litter here. I don't think anyone comes into this bit. Gryphon. So, what's there that, I mean, I've only really listened to one album by Gryphon and I absolutely love it, but I'm afraid I can't remember the title of it. It's called something like Red Queen to something else. It's got a chessboard on the top. Gryphon reformed recently. Absolutely incredible. I wish I knew more about these bands. This is the thing. This video is really uninformed. I'm hoping that even though I don't really know what I'm talking about, what I might do is once I've got this list, I might follow it up with a more informed one. I'll do a little bit of research, because this is almost like a demo. It's like this is me going outside and demoing a list, because this is normally where I start, and then I have to go and do a little bit of research just to get names right. I'm not very good with names, you know. Listen to the birds though. So what was that? I don't know, I've forgotten the numbers. I'm forgetting everything. Does the list really matter? Really? Am I just being a fool trying to remember this stuff whilst walking around in this beauty? Shall we just forget about the list? Oh no, you've come here with a promise I don't feel I've delivered it very well. I thought my memory would work better. There's one thing sat in a chair talking to a camera, but when you're holding a stick and walking around and trying to think at the same time and make sure you don't fall down some hole or sit on some rotten old thing that stinks. Semblance of a path here. I think you could get through it. There seems to be a path through here, but I might. I've seen another path out, I think, and I'm going to take that. I might end up in a dead end. I'm stopping talking, aren't I? The power of the forest is taking over. People have been here. There's a whole ton of rubbish. How can people do this? This rubbish here. An old television set. You see that television set there? When I was a kid, we used to have a programme here called Willow the Wisp, and it had a television set in the forest. Maybe this is the old Willow the Wisp set. Once Kenneth Williams passed on, they couldn't do any more. People have been chucking stuff over that here. I've got 4 more to do, is that right? 4 or is it 3? 3 albums that represent this aesthetic. I think I'm stuck. Can I get through there? It's hard to think. It's all spiky. It's all spiky, this is. If I had 2 hands, it would be easier. Do you mind being used just to put down? There you go. Just poke that down there. See, now you've been of some use to me, finally. No, I joke. I do joke here. Anyone who watches my channel has been great use to me. I feel bad about saying that now. I am really traversing some stuff which someone like me should not be doing. Because what's happened, we had a storm a few months ago. A lot of trees got blown down, and it's stopping me from getting through. I think once I'm over this, I might be able to get back onto some sort of path. If I don't make it, and after many years search, they finally find my skeleton deep in this forest, and they find this old iPhone sat on the floor, and they eventually get this video off it and go, oh my god, this guy died for his art. They're going to be very annoyed because there'll be no answers. They'll go, I want to know what the other albums he's got. I'm drawing a blank here, but I think it's because I'm lost. This looks a bit better now. Whoa. I think I think what's getting me stuck is when dance music and the whole rave thing hit the UK, that had English aesthetic all over it, and all the new age travellers, they all came out doing their thing, and there's a whole bunch of music that came out with that, and the Chemical Brothers had an aspect of it in their sound, but I'm not going to go for them. I'm going to go with White Fluffy Clouds. Again, another track by the psychedelic sort of electronic hippie band, The Orb. An incredible unit. That's what I've got at number 7. The Orb are mind-blowing. Who'd have thought that you could have formed a band like that, an electronic band with no vocals, spinning out tracks that are like 20 minutes long, and be able to release them as singles
and go to #1 in the charts. Who would have thought it? Right, we need it coming out. Oh, I don't know whether I'm even going to put this up. Maybe this is a Patreon. Oh, I don't know. There's something special about this, isn't there? Oh, we've. Oh, what do you think? Let's get you straightened up a bit. We're still going. Yes, we're out. 3 more. 3 more. There's a chair over there. I'm going to have a sit down, I think. I'm just enjoying this. Do you really want to? I mean, there's a part of me thinking, what stupid. I could have just gone for a walk and not said anything. The first 6 came so easy. What else will we have? This is always like this when I do a top 10. This is like how you come up with the top 10. And what else are we going to have? But I go on for ages, I'll get 20 choices and then whittle them down. It just goes on and on and on. You know. Let's have a sit down. Do you fancy a sit down now? I think I'm going to go and get something to drink. Nice drink. And the shop after that. Pop you in there. Like that. And I'll come and have a sit down. Have a think. Don't ask me to go through this top 10 again. Let's make it a little bit more straight on as well. There we go. I might edit this down a little bit. Get some of the not talky bits out, but they might be the best bits. Right, 3 other albums that represent the English aesthetic, especially the more esoteric, under the surface, subconscious aesthetic. What else have we got? How about, this is a funny one, Mark Hollis's solo album, which is called Mark Hollis. Of course, Mark Hollis was the lead singer of Talk Talk, and I like Talk Talk very much, and I get asked to talk about Talk Talk all the time on this channel, and I don't, because I'm not that knowledgeable, but I know he's a genius, I know that stuff's amazing. But the album that I got at the time, I never bought the Talk Talk albums in the 1980s, so I never had that sort of early experience with them, which I came to them later. But in, I think, set 97, when he made that solo album, Mark Hollis, I went and got that album, and it just blew me away. Here is one of Britain's greatest songwriters who has a very introverted approach and set up a production style, and this album is a masterpiece of production. Of course, Mark Hollis's production. So he creates this studio, he puts one microphone in there, he invites people in, he keeps them there for days so they get all disorientated knowing whether it's day or night, right? And everything on that album is recorded on that microphone, and it has this incredible, natural, woody sound. Now, the reason I make videos like this is it's as much for the sound as it is the visuals. I love talking, but having this beautiful sound in the background, that woody sound. And I think for me, it has never been bettered than on that Mark Hollis album, which doesn't sound like it was recorded in the studio. I imagine it's in some sort of Tudor cottage in the middle of the countryside somewhere. So that's what I'm going to put at number 8, which I think we're at. So we've just got 2 more to do now. So I've got that Mark Hollis album in. What else should we go for next? These really just come into my head, you know. But the fact that they come into my head in this order must mean something, mustn't it? It must. I tell you, this is the next album that's coming. I'll come up with some albums that I absolutely love now, but I never talk about on the channel. How about Lamb's debut album called Lamb? So in the early 90s, you had this incredible explosion of electronic music. You had Aphex Twin, you had post-house music, you got drum and bass, you've got big beat, and you've got trip-hop, and trip-hop was not the best name. You've got Massive Attack and Portishead. And all those albums, the Massive Attack albums and Portishead, but they also have got the English aesthetic in drips. But the duo that was closest to a sort of English folk rock aesthetic was Lamb. Lamb was at once in that camp, but also was harsh electronic music at the same time. I don't know the name of the singer, but the singer had this beautiful lilt of the English folk sound. And that first Lamb album is absolutely incredible. All their albums are great after it, but I can remember when that came out and I was checking out Red Snapper and I was checking out, you know, Tricky, all this stuff I was just lapping up. And this was not in my world, this was in the mainstream world. These artists were like selling records. Lamb were a little bit under the radar, but absolutely incredible. So that's what I'm going to have. That was number 9, wasn't it? So now I'm up to my last album we've got there. What shall we have? Come on, we'll just open your mind up again, have a look at the trees and tell me what they make you think of. My mind's a blank. So hot, you know. This is the first time I'm going to take the jacket off on a video in 2025. Now this top I've got on, I'll tell you about this top. I was going through my washing and one of my wife's tops got in there. So this is a lady's top. And I thought, well, I'm going to put it on. You can tell by the neckline. So I am showing my effeminate side. Not only have we got into the deep subconscious of the English forest and survived, and now we're sat out here basking in the sun, but I have also exposed my femininity to you. So as soon as I say that, it has to be Ariel by Kate Bush. And that huge sidelong epic that she made in her garden. Because you've got to see the great conceit of this video is it's not like we're out in the middle of nowhere, we're sat in the side of a town. All the time I was working for that forest, over to my left the whole time was a huge, great big shopping centre. Which one would it be? I think it's Curry's or something like that. You know, we were literally over like this. So this is the thing about England, these pockets exist, but you have to go a long way to get into like Dartmoor Common or the Highlands of Scotland, and when you're there you're in a completely different aesthetic. This English pastoral aesthetic is wound into human beings here, towns and villages and industry and farming and all this type of stuff, and is embodied, I think, the English aesthetic for most of us in the English country garden. And Kate Bush has the guts to make a whole CD. Ariel's got a whole bunch of songs on side 1, but side 2, basically there's this stream of consciousness, James Joyce flow, which starts off in the garden. There's a painter in the garden. It does happen to be Rolf Harris, mind you. And if I went out into my garden and found Rolf Harris there, I might be a little bit worried. But Kate didn't worry at the time. I don't think she knew about him. I think since then she's erased Rolf off, and now it's somebody else takes the role of the painter. That does blight it a little bit, doesn't it, having Rolf on it? But of course he's not British, is he? And having an Australian in there, of course he's going to bring his dodgy ways in. No, I'm joking. I love Australians. They're not like Rolf Harris. I'm just joking. I'm joking at the way us English people see the world. You know, we are a bit shut out. We are an island race, you know. We do assimilate all sorts of different ideas, but we do have a sort of curmudgeonly, you know, leave me alone type of thing. And we do look to the colonies with a sense of affection and disdain. And so I didn't mean to say that, and I do apologise to any Australians if I felt I compared you to Rolf Harris. Of course, that's ridiculous. He probably didn't start his dodgy ways till he came to the UK. I mean, this is, you know, it's like, I'm just digging myself in the hole right at the end of the video, you know, really. I think I just need to get going, cut my losses whilst I can. That's what I need to do, yeah. So I think I will finish there. I've done my 10. So this video is going to be called 10 albums that represent the English aesthetic. Part 1. And then it will be called Songs from the Wood. That's the main title, and then the explanation goes at the end of it. And that's what it will be. These aren't ranked, they don't mean anything at all. They were just my choices, and really all it reacts is for you to go, oh, I'm going to check that album out, because I like a nice slice of English aesthetic, especially the woody English aesthetic, where you go and enter into the darkness and don't know whether you'll come back out alive. But we got out alive, didn't we? Yes, well done. Well done to us all. You know, let's all pat ourselves on the back, especially on my Australian viewers, who I love very much. If you like this video, put a like on it. If you want to see some more, subscribe. If you want to become a patron, the patrons down below, you can become a free member or paid up member, and I have a PayPal tip down there. So if you appreciate me risking my life going into the deep dark English forest and then coming out alive, we're done. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Beauty abounds.